morning everyone. I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I hope your Friday is going to be a good day, ready for the weekend again. Wow, it comes round quickly, doesn't it? So I'm going to create a Thrinchie this time. I thought we'd do a Thrinchie. So we're on Thrinchie number 52, 53, 50. We're on Thrinchie number 55. Now, you don't have to number them if you don't wish. You can just keep them so they're plain. You don't have to number them. So, 55 we're on. And I want to sort of continue with this idea. Patricia did a lovely one with, Patricia Yodel did one with this stamp. Well, it was actually with this stamp. And I thought I would be inspired by that. So I'm going to start with TE12. So let's take our stamp, TE12, and you can see that I've cut the birds away. So it's entirely up to you if you do that. I've also got the sentiments here, which I could also cut away if I wished. It was just so that I could fit as much as possible on an A7 stamp. So we're using our Thrinchies. Our Thrinchies 3x3 inch pieces of card, and I'm using Pink Frog Super Smooth 300 GSM. Let's just move these out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Portobello ink, and I'm just going to ink up the actual circular piece. Now, I'm not going to touch the sentiments, but I'm just going to ink up the circular piece. Doesn't matter what extra bits I get. So I'm using Portobello ink, and the lighting is very poor because it's early on in the morning. So I'm just tilting this just so I can see that I have actually got the, there we go. And then I'm just going to take my kitchen towel, and what I'm going to do is just go on the inside, just so that it's distressed a little bit. So I'm going to dab, can you see I've got ink on there? So I'm going to dab this and the actual circle so that it's quite distressed. So let's just, and you can see how much ink I'm getting off, look. And the good thing is the VersaFine Clair stays wetter for longer. So I'm just going to go around now, and I'm distressing the actual edges just of that. Then I'm going to stamp this onto my Thrinchie. So let's stamp this onto the Thrinchie. And we've got nothing else on there, but I'll still give this a little bit of time just to absorb onto the surface of that piece of card. So just give that a few moments just to absorb onto that card. Don't sort of place it down, then lift it straight back up again, because that's when you'll get your frustrations. Obviously, there's the wonderful stamping platforms now that you can use should you get a few frustrations. So let's have a look what we've got. There we go, let me show you. So can you see I said that we distressed the edges? Can you see here? It's all pale and distressed that I've done with the kitchen towel. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take TE42, which has got that nice curvature to it, the Bloom and Grow TE42. So let's just grab the stamp. Right. And I'll just put the acetate back in, so I'm not looking for that. So I've now got this stamp that's got this lovely curvature to it. And you can see I'm pulling the acetate, not the stamp. So let's take this off here. I actually love that, how it's beautifully distressed. Really nice, I like that. So I'm going to take this stamp now. And I'm going to add, can you see, it's already curved for you. So you can add some of the stamp or even all of it. Can you see? All of it fits around there. But I just want this bit here, this top part. So I'm going to use my Nocturne ink. So let's take the Nocturne ink. And as I start to ink it, you will see that I'm only inking part of that stamp. So let's bring in the acetate. If you bring in the acetate, bring in some white. I'm just inking this part here, not this part. You could just ink that part if you wished. If you bring in the acetate, you could just ink in that part if you wish. I'm just inking the top part. And we'll just add a little bit more ink with waffling. There we go. I do love how that's distressed. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time now with placement. So I'm just taking my time just with my placement. There we go. So let's just add that. And I'm just, again, giving that a little bit of time for that to absorb onto the surface of that card. So just be patient. Just take your time. And you can just press with your one finger. As long as you always keep two fingers on there, it works really nicely. Okay, let's lift that up. There we go. Just so that you can see, you've now got part of that within the circle, should you add that. Now, you can see that's in black. So what I would say to you is, when you're playing like this, just have a little play. So let's just, have I got another one of them acrylic blocks? Just have a little play. So I've got another one here, just on the side. Let me just clean my hands. Let's bring in my little box of Thrinchies. My hands are definitely clean, but that's got a mark on, so I don't want that. Let's bring in my little box. Let's grab another Thrinchie. So now what I'm going to do is let's take the Portobello. Let's just clean this stamp. Just so it's not got the black on there. There we go. And you know I don't normally clean my stamp. So now let's ink with the Portobello. Like so. So give that a really good inking again with the Portobello. And I'm just sort of using the edge of the ink pad. Again, we will take our kitchen roll and we will just diffuse the edges just a little bit. Can you see? You're lifting that ink. So just go around. So now we're going to make that quite distressed. Can you see how much ink that you're actually lifting off there? So we'll come back in again, and then let's add this again to a Thrinchie, like so. But you can see how that TE42, the floral, was designed. It works beautifully with this. So let's just, again, don't rush. Just make sure that you give that plenty of time. I love how it's distressed. I absolutely love how it's distressed. Right, now let's take the floral And let's use the Portobello ink. So I'm just using that Portobello ink. And if you're like me, you look at your ink pad 3 times and think, yes, I am definitely using Portobello, aren't I? But let's just add this here, like so. And again, just give that a few moments. Just press with your finger. You don't need to press too hard. Right, let's lift this up. Now, can you see the difference it makes with stamping with Portobello? It looks more considered. I know it's not much of a difference, but it looks more considered. Can you see? It definitely looks more considered in the Portobello. And that's why sometimes it's worthwhile just having a little play. So we're just going to dry the ink because I want to use my Prismacolor pencils. Now, if you're using those waxy pencils, you just need to make sure that you give that ink a little bit of a dry, just so that it isn't still wet. Do you know what I love as well? I bet you can't see. Can you see in that floral? A little bit of the text from the TE12 is in the floral. Things like that make me happy. We're going to add our black matte to our edges, so our faux black matte just to the edges, just so that it looks more finished. There you go. So we're just adding that faux black matte. Again, it's probably better to add your faux black matte first. I always say this, because then if you make any mistakes, it doesn't matter. Whereas if I make a mistake, then, you know, you've got to do your stamping again. So it's probably best to do that first. Just lovely. And so that I don't smudge any of that, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a waft dry. There we go. Just lovely. And then I'm going to colour in my pencils. So I have the Black Cherry PC1078. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the Black Cherry just to give that darkness. Just a little bit of dark colour. Not much, just a little bit. And I don't have to colour too much, because we've got that text on there and everything, and it's just lovely. But it's just to give that suggestion of colour. Let's add a little bit here as well. Now, don't rush your colouring. So then I'm going to take, I think I need a new one, Crimson Red PC924. So we'll add a little bit of 924. You can tell that I like Crimson Red, can't you? Really. Let's add a little bit more darker there. So yes, you can tell which pencils get used by me. So a little bit of the Crimson Red. A little bit. And once you lay down that first layer of colour, you do get an idea of where you're going. A little bit there. So I'm just colouring in with that little bit of red. I've then got my Scarlet Lake, which is PC923. Let's just a little bit of 923. we go. And then I'll come back again with my black cherry, just to give a little bit of a shadow. So it just gives a little bit of darkness with the black cherry. Then I'll come back to the crimson red. I'm going to lose that name soon. And as you come in with the second colour, you blend into the darker colour as you add a second layer of that. So just add nice simple floral to colour in, really. And then we'll use the Scarlet Lake that I can't remember the name of every time I come to it. You've got that nice velvety red. And then I'm just going to blend out with a little bit of white. To be honest, my white does need sharpening. I do prefer to use a sharper pencil. But I just like to blend the edges just out with my little bit of white. So we've got that lovely pop of red with the portobello, which works really nicely. I'm then going to, well, we can put this away now, can't we? But you can see that you could come in, use your acetate, it's really good, but you could come in, Luke, and add this here. Can you see? You can add this piece here, but look how it works beautifully with it. So you could really continue to add with that. I'm then going to take, let's just put that back. Where's the acetate? There we go. Put that there. And then I'm going to take, goodness knows where it is, TE, oh there it is, TE50. So if I take TE50, which is on the wild side, I take TE50. And we've got all our little mushrooms, as you can see, which work rather nicely with our design. You can use one on its own, so it's entirely up to you which ones you use. And that's why I like TE12. It's got so many possibilities. I'm going to sneeze because that's standard. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That's me all over. Sneeze on a video. Excuse me. I'm going to take Sand Dune. So if I take Sand Dune, I can stamp this in a really light colour. My little mushroom. And we can add this just here. And you can see how T12, you could have lots of ideas with this, couldn't you? And then we'll come in and actually we've missed a little floral here. So let's add a little bit of red. There we go. Now I'm going to add some colour to my little mushroom. Now because I've stamped in portobello, in Sand Dune, it means that I've got a light base to work on, which is rather nice because I can then add my colour. Come in with my red again. So come in with the lovely crimson red. Let's just go round here just to add some of that darkness. go. And then we can just use our Scarlet Lake that I want to call Crimson Lake, but it's Scarlet Lake. Okay. And you can see I've left a little dot and little spaces for my white areas. I'm just going to come in with a brown pencil, which is chocolate, and just add a little bit of that chocolate just here. Okay. So let's come back to our Crimson Lake. And add our Crimson Lake. A little bit more shading now. And it sounds like the birds are waking up here in my garden. Let's add a little bit more definition. Then we'll come to the beautiful Crimson Lake. With the Crimson Lake, we'll blend into that lovely black cherry. And then our Scarlet Lake, just to blend. And then I'll just take that white and we'll just blend it all with a little bit of white. Just so it's all blended. And let me just lift that up so you can see that I've left. Can you see I've left a little white dot that I've left on the stamp for you? Because then you've got your little bit of a white area. We'll then take our Posca pen. Let's just see if it works. I'll just use my book. It's not very white, is it, Tracy? Let's try the other one. And that works really well, look. So just getting my Posca pen working, she says confidently. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white here on top of the mushrooms. And I'm just going to add a little bit of white down there. And then I'm just going to add some touches of white just to my poppy. And it will just add a little bit of white here. The white touches really sort of bring everything to life. There we go. Just so you can see what we have. And then I'm going to take, we've put all that back, so let's just move this out of the way. And then I'm going to use TE44 to put one of my birds on there. As you know by now, I'm obsessed with birds, circles, hearts. So let's take the bird. I wonder if I've picked the right one for a change, and I have. So we'll take the black. There we go. And then we'll just add our little bird. That's it. Just looking at everything. And now this is in the black, so that will stand out now. And you can see I still don't lift the bird too quickly. Just works rather nicely. You should let that ink dry really. So we'll just give this a little bit more white. Just adding that layers of white. And then we'll just add some shadow. So I'm going to add a little bit of Ink Tense just under the mushroom here. So let's grab my paintbrush and a little bit of water. Just making sure that brush is clean. And then we can just add a little bit of shading just underneath here, just to give it a little bit of shade, just because it just stands out a little bit more with a little bit of shade. So I'm going to go underneath the florals, and if you can see that I'm sort of dragging out that Inktense pencil a little bit more than I normally would. So a little bit, so sort of adding it under the floral and then dragging it out a little bit more than I would normally. Just so that we've got a little bit of shadow. Just under those areas. And when you do this in real life, you will see that you've got that shadow under there. So you just, there we go. So you've just got a little bit of shadow under there, but you've actually dragged it out a little bit further, because it just then works quite nicely. You probably can't see it much, but in real life you will see it personally. So let's give this a dry. And then on TE42 there are the words bloom and grow. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little acrylic block and I'm just going to place that on there, and I'm going to take my black Nocturne and I'm just going to ink the word bloom. So I've just inked the word bloom. I'm not drying the water. I'm just going to add the word bloom there. And then I'm going to add, and I'm just going to dry that. Just take it off with my kitchen towel. And then I'm just going to use the word grow. So it's got bloom and grow on there. It's up to you if you want to use the and word, bloom, and I'm just going to put grow. There we go. So I've got bloom and grow in there. So let's take, and I think this is a lovely sort of simple project to start the weekend. A few little Posca Can you see how hard I'm having to work with that? So just I'm just gently pressing that Posca pen onto a piece of card, just so it flows a little bit, but I'm just sort of pressed it lightly. Right, let's bring in our little book. So we've done, you can see I've used this quite a bit lately because it works so well with everything. It really does. Oh, I love it. So that was 52, 53, 54, and now this is 55. So we'll add 55 to our little book. You can see, I think I've nearly finished my book, look. Only got a few pages left. But now I've got something I can look back on for other, oh, I'm undoing my bottle here. I've got something I can look back on for other projects. I know I was undoing the bottle then. And I can look back on my Thrinchies each time just to give me further ideas. That's it. So let's add this to our little book. And again, just give that a few moments just to adhere to your little book. Make sure you're not pressing your Posca paint splatters. Oh, that's stuck rather nicely. Just take that bit of glue off the end there, and then I'll use my finger as a guide just to place that back in. And then if we bring in our little Thrinchie, it just works rather nicely. I absolutely love that. And obviously we will create one to go with that one another time. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.